Hello, welcome to another Talk Architecture podcast episode, a special interview with Amin Zakaria. Amin Zakaria, I knew him in the year 2010 and so on as a student of architecture at University Malaya. And thereafter, he went to another university in south of Malaysia. And currently, he's a project architect in a Kuching-based architecture company, and he specializes in digital sketch tools such as concepts and portfolio trace, and excellent in both manual and digital drawing and illustration using iPad and other software. So I'm sure he will explain in detail these things. And I welcome you, Amin.
Thank you, Dr. Nazi. Thank you for having me today.
Very happy to see you. And congratulations, you're already married and settled down, I suppose.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been 1 year over here in Kuching. So far, I'm doing so good. It's a new experience. It's a new experience working with different projects, different teams, and also different office.
Before Kuching, you were in Peninsula Malaysia, basically in Kuala Lumpur area, I suppose. And how many years had you had experience in architecture practice?
After I finished part 1 in I worked in KL for about 1 year plus. And then I further part 2 in UTM Johor. And then I continue work in Johor for close to 5 years. And before I plan to move to Kuching. And it's been 1 year plus over here.
You were based in Johor. Sorry to say, I forgotten that you're based in Johor.
Yes.
But there's any reason that you have relocated to Kuching, Sarawak?
For one thing is that because I get married here, and then my wife is from here. She's also in architecture fields, but she works in different office, and I work in different office. And yeah, and then it's just in time that after 5 years working in JB, at that time I was just finished one project completions, finished CCC. So I think it is just a nice time for me to move to another office and then try a different environment.
So your background in the practice, you have experience in all the stages, from concept to contract implementation and site supervision. Is it?
Yes. I was lucky enough when I enter the office in Johor. At that time, it is just in time when they want to do the submissions for the KMP, for the building plans, and then the project go on smoothly. And then after about 2 years in preparing everything, and then they start to implement on site. And then I think on the 3rd year we were stationed on site for about 2 years. And then at that time we can work closely with the drawing production, and also we see to supervise the site. So after that, yeah, I followed through towards the end of the project until CCC and all that.
CCC is compliance, completion, and what's the other C? Certification, right?
Yeah, the certification.
Yes. Okay. This is what they call it in Malaysia. And we have audience from all over the world, and that's just to explain what that means.
Yeah.
So you could actually start doing your part 3 architecture exams or the professional exams with such a lot of experience from different stages of design and construction.
Yes, I am thinking on that. Yeah.
Okay, let us get to the cruncher. The main topic is, I'm interested to call you for this podcast, is that you are both adept in digital drawing and also in manual drawings or freehand sketching.
Yes.
And you can do a freehand sketch of a detail easily with the scales. Yeah. So this, although I'm saying it like, hey, can't everybody do that? Not necessarily, because I found that students of architecture, they start doing digital drawing earlier on in their the course, like second year or something, or the second semester of second year, and they haven't had enough practice. Like you said, you mentioned in your Facebook post that practice is so important.
Yes.
And you have to practice every day.
Every day.
Okay. So the first question is, why is teaching how to sketch important for you personally?
From me personally. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, I think there's a short story that I can share on this one. There was one time when I was working previously in my previous office. I was at the same time when I enter into the office, I hold on to CADing to the 3D software so much. I depend on the holding the mouse and then drawing by using the computer software so much that until one time when I tried to draft manually with my hands to draft a simple layout of a toilet, let's say 1.5 times 2.1 meter, freehand sketch on the paper, I cannot get the proportion right. And then I find it I've lost the sense of proportion, how to estimate when someone asks you to draw scale 1 to 100 of that simple layout. I lose the sense of proportion of a door to a toilet width, for example. And then from that onwards, and then I think I have to re-practice again these manual drawings. I have to do it either digitally or manually, but I have to find a way to get these skills back. Because last time when I was studying, I used to love draw on a tracing paper by using the marker rendering, because I find that's a very fast way for me to draw a perspective, to express an ideas, to get like a visual pictures of what I want to look like before I go into 3D modeling software. So I think for one, I think that the sense of proportions is important for me to practice manual drawings again. So when you ask me why is teaching how to sketch is important, because I think I'm very sure that many of our colleagues, many of our friends, even at my age or at the younger generations, many of us have lost this kind of skills, this method. They simply skip these methods because they want to simply go to the final rendering. They want to see the form so fast that they lost the early part, the interesting parts.
That's why, I don't know how, but through my teaching, even more so with my younger year students, there is lack of refine. You don't
Yep.
have, there is a feeling that it's too hard, the drawings.
Yep,
And
exactly.
it could be that they were not that skilled, but when I went to fifth year, you would think
Yep.
that they have more experience, right?
Yep.
Out of 10 people, there was a batch out of 10 people. I should say that the one with hard or keras, kan, the
Yes.
drawings,
Yes.
majority. There were probably 3 or 4 of them out of 10 people or 12 people. I forgot how many exactly, but that amount of number of people that even though they were developing the work on the software, I noticed that as well. Because in thesis you have more time
Yeah.
to massage, right? The
Yeah.
plans and the drawings. So these few people, they feel it feels nicer, their work. So that's why this mystery that I was thinking, what is the mystery? And you mentioned here about this lost skills and methods. What is the mystery? Can you define it more detail?
Okay. For one, I think there's one time a senior of me uh, remind me of this one thing. Like when we holding a mouse and when we holding a pencil, there's a different muscle engagement. There's a different muscle memory. It's a different gesture for us to do that action. So when we holding a mouse and then just simply target the line to do the CADing or to do the Revits, which is why when we simply look at the layout plan produced by two different students, we can tell which one that spend the most in PC software, which one of the student spend the most in drafting by using their hands. So even for me, when I do digital drawings, the gestures still remain the same. I am holding a stylus pencil and then I'm still drawing like a manual drawings. It's just that the action is in soft copy digital. It is not on actual paper.
Oh,
So
yes, that this now you have advancement in technology. meaning this software. Can you illustrate or in words what happens during why these softwares are necessary to be like bread and butter of our tools? Like
Okay.
whatever
Yeah.
software they're using.
Yeah, because at that time I was also develop an interest in digital drawings. I mean like in tablet drawing on iPad and all that. So I started drawing on iPad when I was studying in UTM, and then there was a friend of mine have a iPad. So I would like to, because I've seen so many examples on YouTube online that people does this thing, everything on digital tablets. So I would like to try. So I give it a try. And then I find it, okay, this one can be so beneficial in our scope of work in so many ways. For one thing, because tablet is, you can work in remote, you can work in mobile, you can bring it anywhere. You can bring into your meeting room, you can bring into lecture. Basically, you can sketch anywhere. Unlike a sketchbook, after 100 pages, and then your sketchbook is already finished, you have to get a new one. And then the number of tools, the number of brushes. If, let's say, for me, I prefer to draw by using a pen and with different thickness, and to color render with marker. So the number of tools that you have to bring to some other places, it will be quite massive. Whereas for a tablet, everything is inside the tablet. You can change to any pen line weight, and then you can save everywhere. And then the file is also in the cloud. You can continue sketching when the file is in the PC. And the options of color, marker, all that, everything is in one software. Is in one application.
You learn it from YouTube creators. Okay, you could be the exception rather than the rule in this case to discover digital tablet. And also at your stage, shall we say about how many years? 10 years experience. More than 10 years.
Working experience, about 7-8 years.
Or 7-8 years?
Yes.
You have enough experience in construction, because if you imagine that somebody fresh graduate coming in,
yep.
After even part 2, yep, and doing detailed drawings, because you have to have a sense of the detailed drawings, don't you? Or skill in construction to enable to be so involved or so into this digital tablet sketching, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So about that knowledge, I find it, I am grateful, because there was a time when I was working in Semenanjung in Johor that the boss and the client asked us, oh, you must station 6 of them in the on-site, because I want them to really contribute and committed to this one project. So at that time, I observed how things were done really on-site, from the drawing production that you did at the office, and then how you pass over the drawings into the inspection of work to your resident architect. And then from there also, you notice that whatever we produce, the drawings at the office, of course, it is not sufficient to what can be done on site. You still have to go through the technical meeting with contractors, with engineer and other consultants to solve some of the design terminations. And then I observe some of our resident architect. They are very skillful, and then they're very experienced with more than 20 years building a shopping mall. So I love to see how they draw manually. This one is manually in the scale of 1 to 10, 1 to 5. So they know like every single inches of the let's say like a slab layer, like design terminations. They know exactly what's going on in what layer. So I love to observe how they draw these things. So from there, I also learn. I observe and learn. And then from there onwards, I also know that whenever we want to propose a design, some things, we always have to consider, for example, design terminations. For example, also like the scales of the areas. For example, it has to be it has to be logic. How this thing going to be built at the site. So to share one thing, that is what one of the key point that I learned the most when I was working on site. I love to observe how these people working from the office, and then how is this thing going to be built on site.
Yeah. Yes, I've talked to other resident architects, and many of my friends work on the site, and having to take the drawings from the office and then having to correct them, on site. Exactly. It's not enough information maybe in the office. even though
Exactly.
it was submitted, but not enough for the site work.
Exactly.
There are a lot of points there from what you said just now, when you explained very well the your experience on site.
Mm.
So I would like to ask the question regarding the designer, yeah, the designer. The- to to be, you can see the product after it's being built, and when it was because you were involved with the drawings from the office, you are one of the lucky ones who had the opportunity to see it through right until the end
Yep.
to maintain the quality of the work. But this will give you a lot of experience about mistakes done, or when it comes out, when it's being built, and to a certain extent, you could take more time if you want to correct it, right? And
Yep.
then you don't have time because the client is saying, "What are you doing?" You can't.
Yep.
So the
Yep.
contract doesn't allow you. So a good designer, what do they do in the beginning? At the drawing stage. What are the things when you talk about 1:5, 1:10, 1:20? I mean, I used to tell my students that there are differences, and that when you go into 1:5, but you not only zoom very quickly, you have to go through your 1:10 first, and then it would
Yes.
develop to 1:5, even 1:1, and where
Yes.
you have a mock-up, right? A mock-up.
Yep.
So in the beginning, what are the rules, or what are the things that you have to watch out for? Or is there a way or a practice that could help, streamline the design from the desk to the site?
Mm. In my opinion on this one, from what I've seen, one thing is mostly important is experience lah. So for those,
Experience. Okay.
experience. That's the one way to answer it. When I observe like all these, my senior project architect and also my resident architect who has experience building these big public buildings for the past 20 years. By the time even when they see the drawings 1 to 100, they can tell already what will be the problem at this slab
Okay.
opening, for
Yeah.
example, at these facade details, for example. They can foresee that there will be coordination issues. For example, okay, this facade will have issue. Rainwater downpipe might come in. There will be some ventilation opening from M&E. They can already foresee because of the past 20 years experience. They have gone through this so many times. So they can tell just from looking at them at the base general drawings. So one thing is about experience. So from there, I learned that whenever we want to do a design proposal after this in any buildings, you have to watch out. You have to foresee all this issue. Even when you do a simple roof structure, you have already have it inside your head how you want to discharge all this water. For example, in our context, because our rainwater is very huge compared to in other countries. So those are some of the examples. One thing is experience.
Yes, yes. Yes, immediately the word trust came to my mind. Trust,
Yeah.
kepercayaan, or belief that somebody can do the job. So you have witness and you have experience, when you were a young designer, how whether or not a more experienced a senior member of the company would trust you or not, and what do they look for when they start trusting you? That you are thorough, that you are more comprehensive, maybe. And do they look at your drawings? How important is your drawings? That do you have to draw, like, because they were manual drawers before.
Yes.
What do you, when you work with this set of people, those characteristic or those mindfulness that they have, maybe you have some of the experiences that you could relate?
From my experience, the good thing is my resident architect at that time, even though like he's very good in manual drawings, he's still willing to learn how to handle AutoCAD at least. He just open an AutoCAD, learn to zoom in and then check the drawings particularly and then print it out and then just draw it manually again. Because the drawing that he produced is enough for the technical coordinations and then to hand over to contractor to solve the design and all that. So I'm not saying that because someone is being already already get used to manual drawings, then he just have to stick with that. But in my case, I also teach myself that I always have to adapt. I always have to, not to say to change, but I always have to adapt how to suit in with the surroundings. So it's the same thing, like basically when we go to different office will have different practice, different softwares, different workflow of working. So of course, you always want to stick with your own way, but sometimes it is also better for us to adapt a little bit with the surroundings.
So, you
So
know, yeah, I as an educator, right, for
yeah,
a lot of years, I kept on thinking about these things sometimes, and I thought that teamwork, the skill, even when you are in the second year, you should have the skill of working in a team, because you cannot
yes,
take for granted that people can work in a team, right? And that
yes,
this should be sustained throughout, and this is something that is important in practice, especially in practice.
yes,
And I just think of many of these skills. One of the skills is, okay, one of them is that teamwork. Another is going back into drawing, yeah? The
yeah,
ability to do manually when you need to draw manually, and
yeah.
the ability to draw digitally when you need to draw digitally. So could you give a bit more insight on this?
Okay. I've been using an iPad digital drawing for more than 6 years. Of course, your muscle memory, your gestures, whenever you draw, you tend to undo, for example, then you will double tap your screen. And then, of course, in digital, it can happen. Let's say I want to zoom in and then to refine the line further, I can just pinch and zoom and then it can happen. But there will be a time that I find it, I have how to say, like a mental block where I cannot, whenever I draw something digital, it doesn't feel right. So there will be a time that I prefer to move into the tracing paper, to butter paper, to manual drawings. So in my office, I will have what I call it like an online desk where I have my PC, my tablet, my phone. But I will also at the side of me, I will have my offline desk. Offline desk is where I put all my books on my sketchbook and then all my pencil, my pens. So there'll be a time I feel more comfortable with all the tracing paper. So the tracing paper, and then the tracing paper, of course, you can just lay it over, then you can sketch like infinite. You can just roll it over as long as you want and then just sketch. Because I feel the ideas, it flows faster when I do that. And then once I get the image, let's say for example, I usually sketch perspective, elevation drawings or simple layouts. And then I kind of get the idea, okay, how I want to execute this, let's say in 3D modeling or in sketch later. So of course, when we sketch manually by hands, the exact dimension is not that right, but the proportion is there. Compared to when I do digital drawings, it can be as sharp. I can simply draw 1 to 100 scale, quite close to the dimension. So as I said before as well, we have to go back to manual drawing. Just let the idea flows faster, and then we can go to the next step, which is like digital drawing, where I refine something, where I can copy and paste and then experiment. Let's say, for example, for design option, design exploration, experiment with layouts, and then try and error a few other options. And then only then we go to a computer software where we want to refine further with like 3D software and Revit and all that.
Yeah, this goes back to the fundamental of a designer, right? Where
Yes.
you're trying to go and translate your idea that is in your mind,
Yeah.
and onto paper or onto digital, softwares. So, and you said that what was the clue here was the manual drawing manually, uh, unbottle or unblocking. It's like
Yes.
that when this is what I also experienced this doing only manual drawing where I have a
Yes.
mental block as well.
Yes.
Sometimes it's about there's nothing in my mind to draw or to I would be thinking about a space that I've been, I've traveled a lot. So I thought that I
Yeah.
want to be something like that, or the material or the texture that I've touched earlier
Yeah.
on, or something. So we talk about proportion as well. Very interesting that you said that for manual drawing, this is where you get the proportion right.
Yeah.
So proportion meaning scale, you mean? Scale, yeah?
Yeah.
Or the human scale, right? The human
The
scale.
human skill. Yes.
Yeah, the proportion is the human scale. So the thing about digital drawing is when you say that when the good thing about digital drawing is that you can get the exact dimension, because it is very, very precise, and then it'll
Yeah.
come out the exact drawings. But then
Yeah.
you need to actually understand about the human scale. So
Yeah.
there are many a variety of things that have come out of our conversation, and which I was looking for those things that you're saying because I want to know and further what you think of them. Obviously, would you like to explain any of this, perhaps about the human scale, or was there any other experience that you thought that it could be something that is a mistake that was done in a teamwork situation that led to, um, people believing your technique or not? Have there enough people believing your technique that work with you, or that you inspire people? I would imagine that people will think that the product or the way that you work is doable and workable, and how you had done some workshops with UTM students the other day, saw that other people also believe that the way you work is important to be inspired from and to emulate. That's my observation, because it sort of tick boxes that I've been thinking about. Because I was witness to the whole all the student batches. There were
Yeah.
student batches doing only plans in digital. There was
Yeah.
AutoCAD in the time, and they
Yeah.
completed the rest in manual, for example,
I see.
and they were
Okay.
doing both. And that was because they haven't the technology that you have now, right?
Yeah.
Where you could actually sketch on the digital tablet.
Yeah.
So that's the way to go, is it? We have like about 5 minutes or 10 minutes left, and
Okay.
I think that comes to the routine. I mean, we're still looking at the future architect, those younger people, younger than you, who don't have maybe I mean, UTM is doing it, but it's through the lecturers that is interested in what you do. But as architecture education and curriculum and doing studio work, what are the important things that you think that studios should have? And maybe it's lacking in where you were before, that that could help bring in the good designer, the good practice, or something that closer to using all your potential lah.
Yeah.
When you say practice, when you say practice every day, that's bringing your potential up, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. I think I've been ever since, I think, let's say 2019 or 2020, when we started the pandemics. I was at that time I had like a sharing session with several universities. The first one was with the landscape architecture students in Singapore, and then I had a session with UKM Bangi, and then I had a session with UITM, and then UNIMAS, Taylor's, and Raffles University, and some others. I found the same issue from other educators, other lecturers as well, when they say that the students not so preferred using their hands in sketching, regardless they are in second year, third year, or first year. So after sometimes I understand how you feel as well. Like when as they go towards the final year, they try to drop off this skill. They try to drop, basically not to drop this skill, but this method, because they want to. We understand that they have a very short period of time for board production for their final presentations. But yeah, that's one of the reasons when they decided, okay, I'm going to skip this part and then I'm going to straight away do computer because I want to render and then produce the board and so on. But I think, one thing as an education, what they can do is, of course, they can remind, they can advise, they can highlight many, many, many times. Even on my workshop with UTM last month, I remind the students many, many times, since they are all the first year student first, they are still in manual drawings. I remind them and I encourage them so many times that please practice using manual first. Practice with your hand first. Do not simply invest into a tablet or the PC software for now. Because if you don't invest the time to discipline yourself to develop these skills, regardless I give you whatever expensive tablet or expensive software, you will not be able to do it. Because it is not so much on the hardware, on the machine itself, but everything is from you. Because I also share my story, like when I first started sketches, I was just using an iPad mini, a smaller one. Even before that, I bought just a second-hand used iPad from my friend. I don't even have a stylus yet. I just use with my finger just to get used to the apps. What is these apps capable to do? I just keep reminding myself what I can do with what I have right now compared to what I can do with what I don't have. So I spend the time really much, just develop the skills, invest the time to do it first before whatever tablet I can have. Yeah, and then another way for me to motivate myself also, I don't entirely learn all these illustrations from architecture fields. When I go to YouTube, for example, when I go to some other websites that provide tutorials, I go for some people's like who do concept illustration for film, for gaming illustration, visual artists, for comic artists. Because all these, let's say, for example, comic artists, when they explain in terms of scale and proportion, in terms of how to draw a human portrait, a human body and gestures, they explain and understand scale proportions very, very well compared to us. Because for us, we draw buildings. So our methods of measuring things, of course, always started from the human. Let's say, for example, for a guy at the height of 1.7, and then your aluminium glazing door about 3 meters, your door is 2.1, and then floor to floor 3.5. That always the rule of measurement when we measure. But all these comic artists or visual artists, when they measure things, for example, when they draw a human portrait, they start measurement from the size of your eyeball, and then like 3 or 5 times of that become the width of your face, something like that. So they understand the very intricate dimensions of scale and proportion. So I learned from there, and then I tried to practice that discipline, that method, that understanding into our designs in architecture illustrations. And then I find it is very useful. I find it's very useful. So I always encourage students also, do not just practice, do not go just for architectural illustration, because I can say it's kind of limited what they have in the YouTube explaining about design, scale, and proportions, but go for different field as well, because all these things exist in different fields of these disciplines. I mean, in terms of design, you can learn from other people who does portrait drawing, people who do like human gesture drawings. Yeah.
So your conclusion, architects are artists more than scientists lah.
Yes. It's just that in our case, we need to balance out. Okay, now you have the design, how are you going to build this? Okay, now that's
when
another
you're
side of
science.
now that's another set of
The
knowledge
art.
that you have.
The art comes first, you see.
Yes. Yes.
I learned somewhere that someone advised me that you need to know the structure in business. You need to know the structure before you can flow. Because even in speaking also, even in interviews or even in conversations, you need to have to be efficient, to be productive at the end of the day. You want to get something out of it. You can always like idly, when there's a time, you can just don't think about structure, obviously. Even dance, art, music, there have to be a structure before you can flow, before you can improvise.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good to know that you talking about illustrators and learning from others. And I used to be able to draw figures very well because I came from that background.
I see.
And I go for 3.6. I go for 3 feet. Yeah,
I see.
900, 1.8 and 1.2. I go for that, and I'm one of those batches that was from imperial to metric.
I understand.
Yeah. So that's why we go for 3.6. Now coming to the end of our session now, anything that you may thought that you want to say or you would like to conclude with our podcast episode, which I think it could go into part 2, but I want to be respect our timetable. So
I see.
So therefore, we could have like 1 or 2 minutes there. You could give some conclusion that you wish to.
Okay, I think the same thing when I say when someone said he wanted to start but do not know where to start. But what I can share is what I can always advise in other students is, of course, you have to practice every day and don't stop creating. So you don't limit yourself just to do architectural illustration per se, but you can also practice doing. In my case, I do urban sketch every week or every month, and then from there onwards, I practice the same discipline, the same method I do in my architectural illustrations. So on weekends, whenever I go out, I see like all nice buildings. I always do on-site urban sketch, but 5 days or in a week, when I'm in the office, I will do architectural illustrations. So do not limit yourself with just one discipline. Make yourself much more variety. And that's one way for me to keep reminding myself, do not stop creating. Means you can create anything as long as you practice yourself. So just pick up a subject that you really love, just practice, do that maybe every day. Even though there will be like 1 or 2 days when I'm really busy, I don't have the time, but just don't stop. Just continue.
Yeah.
After sometimes it become a routine, and then it will become very fluent, and yeah. So that's one of the really key point that I really can highlight right now.
Thank you so much, Amin, for taking your time and sharing your thoughts, precious thoughts, which are to me gems and advices that are, if we dwell upon it, and if we come back to some of these ideas, because they seem to be, to me, things that I was searching for in terms of conversation of this nature regarding the importance of manual drawings and the fact that these digital tablets understood they were designed to actually meet to the manual drawings way of doing things that was very helpful, and that itself is a validation of manual drawings. It is not obsolete. It's not something that you just drop, like you said, drop the skill. So this, I hope for the educators out there, for the students out there, we can learn from this session of the podcast on manual drawings and the importance of it in a way. Okay, thank you so much, Amin.
Welcome. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for having me, Dr. Nazi.
Okay, all the best in your endeavors that you have.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.